It's not a playoff game. It's not even a regular season finale or something like that. It's got its own massive feel that in the moment, it'd make it feel even bigger. Good afternoon to you. Good Wednesday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is a new double shot show. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore in Baltimore is Saturday. And that should be the day, if you ask me, that everything that exists in Mike Tomlin's mythical hip pocket emerges, that gets shown to the world. There's no longer anything to hide. There's no longer anything to hold back. For those of you who are new to this franchise or even to football, Tomlin once famously referenced having a play that he was keeping in his hip pocket for some rainy day or for some big situation. I actually don't even remember what it was right now. It might even have been just like a 2-point conversion or something. But this is the time. This is when you revisit stuff that you might have run, I don't know, once or twice on a rainy day at St. Vincent College and said, ooh, man, if we can ever get that thing out. This is when you do it. And when I say that, it's going to sound kind of Captain Obvious, like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's the second meeting against your arch rival. It's in their place where they will have the overwhelming crowd advantage. There's no such thing as, oh, look at the Steelers fans. They travel well. Not down there. They don't. That place is going to be purple top to bottom. So you're going to have all kinds of things working against you. And you need every advantage that you can conceivably concoct. And this team has not shown a whole lot of unpredictability, if we're being honest. I wouldn't go as far as Darius Slay did, the Eagles corner, after this past week. He was just mad, I think. One thing that corners always do when they're mad is after the game, they'll say, oh, yeah, we saw everything they had. Oh, we saw it coming, because they know it's going to make headlines back in the other city. The Steelers' offense isn't Matt Canada level predictable, but it is predictable. You do know not necessarily what running play they're going to run, but you know they're going to run on first down. You know they're probably going to run on second down. And you have at least some kind of clue as to what they're going to do passing-wise. But isn't it funny how when the Steelers tried the gadget play, the flea flicker, which wasn't all that dramatic from a gadget standpoint, it was just, here's the ball, Jaylen Warren. Jaylen turns around, flips it back to Russell Wilson, and Russ underthrows Calvin Austin. Calvin comes back to the ball. So it's not like the gadget made it work. The gadget might have helped get Cal on a linebacker, which is a wonderful mismatch to have. But other than that, it doesn't achieve a whole lot. You still had to just execute it. This is the week. The same way that TJ Watt and George Pickens were out on the field today on the South Side, because you know they're going to play. Why? Because if they end up needing time off, if they end up needing to recover from an injury, this isn't the week for it. Maybe you do that on Christmas Day against the Chiefs. You would definitely think about it in the finale against the Bengals, which ideally would be meaningless. But this is the week to get crafty. This is the week to try some different stuff. We've seen it. It exists. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'll see it in a training camp or in a practice setting, and you go, whoa, that's pretty cool. Why don't they run that? But then they don't. And then you think, okay, that's all right. That's all right. You don't need to be running it in week 6 or 11 against this team or that team. What you need it for is the second meeting with the Ravens. Unload that hip pocket. When we come back, I'll be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck over on the South Side. And Chris, we're going to talk about something that we never, ever, ever, ever talk about, and that's tight ends.
It's all right. Sounds good. Let's do it.
The thing is that the biggest first impression that was made when Arthur Smith was announced as the Steelers' new offensive coordinator was, tight ends. This is it. He's going to get them involved. This is the big development. And then all summer long, Pat Freiermuth's walking around the facility with this big smile on his face. And this is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I'm going to finally get the football and everything else here. And then it doesn't really happen. And even in those games where he appears to be productive and you feel like he was productive, it's just because he made the most out of 3 or at the very most 4 targets. What is it going to take, Chris, to get him and I guess even Darnell Washington heavily involved in this offense?
Well, they are heavily involved because of personal. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I think part of the problem is it's definitely multi-layered. And part of the problem is he definitely loves to use tight ends. In fact, he uses all of his tight ends a lot. Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, Michael Pruitt, Connor Hayward, they all get snaps. They all play. And the more we see Pruitt and Hayward on the field, the less we usually see Pat and Darnell. So I think that's part of the problem. The other part of it is, okay, well, how do you get the tight ends more involved in the passing game? How do you get them more targets? You would like to see that, especially more out of play action. Russell Wilson's numbers, from play action when he's under center, that's the time that you're really trying to sell that you're running, but you're really going to throw. That's the time, in my opinion, to be trying to find those tight ends. And sometimes they do. Russ will roll out. He'll find Darnell in the flat, whatever it is. But if I had an answer where I could snap my fingers and say, yeah, it's going to take this, then I think Arthur Smith would have probably figured it out by now too. But it's definitely something that they need to exploit more often.
Freiermuth's been targeted 25 times in the last 5 games. And you can say, geez, that's not bad. It's 5 per game. He was targeted 6 times against the Eagles, only caught 3 of those. But when you get to the bigger picture here, his catch rate is tremendous. And in that same 5 games, he's caught 21 of the 25 times he's been targeted. And you would think that would kind of resonate a little bit because a lot of those have also been big catches. He's had 3 of them for more than 20 yards. He's had, what is this here? 9 of those catches brought first downs. 3 of them were touchdowns. I don't know what else he'd have to do to say, listen, why don't we try something a little bit different this week? Instead of rotating 500 tight ends, instead of rotating all these other wide receivers into it, instead of throwing deep balls for Van Jefferson, sorry, I can't get over that. Why not just say, here's a week where we're going to feature this guy? I mean, remember the first series in Philadelphia where Pat ran that left out route? Mm-hmm. Okay, a play that we've seen 1,000 times this summer in training camp and in practices and everything else. And you go, they're going to use him. Look, there's that play. That's the one they were supposed to be working on. And then it doesn't happen again. Yeah,
what I would like to see from this offense in general, and this can absolutely feature the tight ends, whether it's Pat or Darnell, maybe even Michael Pruitt and Connor Hayward, I don't care, is more of the quick hitting passes on first down. Like drop back 3 steps, a quick little 3-yard hitch. I don't care what it is, but because if you get 4 or 5 yards out of it, that's not a great play, but 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5 is a lot better than 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 10. And so then you can, we talk about, I know you talked about it on your daily shot earlier this week about first down issues. That helps with the first down issues. I asked Arthur Smith about that today. He said that's a key point of emphasis, but of course he had to be Arthur Smith about it and kind of give this long-winded answer about it. But
why you can't do it. Yeah. And that's you remember the little quick to the little quick out, not out, up the middle to Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
And I went and like I gave you this little punch in the shoulder.
Yeah, I remember.
Philadelphia, and I go that, and I went that play right there. That's the one. The other way, of course, in which Freiermuth could get more involved, and it maybe is getting more involved if you think about some of the catches that have been made in recent games, is by coming back to Russell Wilson, by developing a chemistry with Russ whenever Russ is in trouble, which is going to happen, especially when you're facing a formidable defensive front like Philadelphia's. This was what Freiermuth had to say today on the South Side on that subject.
Yeah, just understanding, where we're going to be. It takes time. I'm obviously been missing time early in the year. It was tough on that, but, he's got a good feel of what I'm going to do. I got a good feel of what he expects when he scrambles out of pocket or, ball location on certain routes. So it's been a process, and we got to continue to be better at that.
One thing I don't want to do here, Chris, is I don't want to make it sound like we're taking up this cause just to take up this cause, okay?
Right.
Because this really is a thing. The way this offense is structured with all these big bodies on the football field, and in particular, the way the opponent, whoever the opponent happens to be, stacks up the front. And John Harbaugh is going to do that in Baltimore. He's going to have so much purple on the front that Russ isn't even going to be able to see the secondary. It's just throw over their heads. Get the tight end involved. I've been saying that from the opposite perspective, that I don't understand why the Ravens, given all the shortcomings that they've had, specifically Lamar Jackson when facing the Steelers, that they don't utilize Mark Andrews. I brought it up here on this program this week. The tight end is such an easy out. It's such an escape hatch for you as a coach that it just stuns me that more don't use it.
Yeah, I think that if there's a game that you could see more, I don't necessarily promise anything when it comes to Pat or Darnell or anything, but just tight ends overall, it could be this week against the Ravens. The Ravens typically are more of a cover 3, cover 1 defense, which takes away the middle of the field. It's called middle field closed coverages. But when they played the Steelers earlier this year, especially because George Pickens is playing, this could also have a big impact on the game too, is they went to more of a too high look, which is called middle field open. And if you remember the game against the Chargers, they run middle field open almost more than anybody in the league, and a lot of the big plays that happened were the passes over the middle. Now, those were to Calvin Austin, but Pat Freiermuth, remember, he was targeted a couple times in that game, and Darnell Washington in the Ravens game was targeted down the seam.
Who? Who's that? Who?
So it can happen, and this could be the game. If the Ravens want to try to come out and do the same thing, especially if George Pickens plays, of running this too high look and saying, hey, listen, you're not going to hit those moon balls down the sideline. Okay, great. You're going to leave the middle of the field open, and we can start hitting those passes up the seam or just straight up the middle on posts or slants. Do more of that, and the tight ends can absolutely be used as part of that.
Darnell Washington has caught 14 passes this season. Let me rephrase that here. He has caught 18 passes on 24 targets. I was looking at the wrong columns here, for 192 yards. And he's got 9 first downs, and he's got the touchdown that he had earlier in the season. Last 2 games total between Cleveland and Philadelphia, 1 total target, no catches, no nothing else. And again, it's just, when you see some of the other names that get involved, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying that the Steelers need to turn one of their tight ends into Travis Kelce. Okay. Right. There's only one of those guys. There's, for every time somebody sees a Kelce or a Gronk or someone like that, they tend to inflate the value of their own tight end. And I'm not doing that here. Yeah. But I have seen Pat specifically just keep making plays. And he made a big play that we all should have been talking about this week in Philadelphia. And it's exasperating. I don't mean for them. Pat's a total pro, by the way. Yeah. You're not going to, this is not Pat complaining. Okay. It's us. Okay. And it just, especially for when you see that there's so little being accumulated in first quarters, first halves, first drive, no touchdowns. Do something different,
Yeah, the one of the best ways that they can come out in this game is for that first drive to shoot, like play action right away.
Touchdown.
Well,
how about a touchdown on the first drive for the first time all season?
This would be the game to do it, especially with the AFC North on the line. But yeah, come out, be a little, unpredictable. If you do a run play, maybe do a run play that the Ravens aren't expecting. Maybe they are expecting that toss to Najee or whatever it is, but instead have some sort of weird, gap scheme going straight up the middle, right over the center or right over the guard. There's something that's different than what you've been putting on tape in recent weeks. But yeah, the tight ends, to go back to that, I want to see more of that. I want to see the quick hitters. I don't care if they average 6 yards a catch by the end of the game. If they end up having 6 catches in a game,
boom. Yeah, back them off the line of scrimmage. Yep. I love it. They're not going to do this. The first down is going to be a toss to Najee. First snap is going to be a toss to Najee. It might even be the exact same play, just to show you where the Steelers. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for today's J1Q, and for that, we head up I-79.
Hey, DK. Tim from Meadville, Pennsylvania. I'd like to see Jaylen Warren get in the game a little bit earlier, maybe in the first quarter. Also like to see some more passing in the first quarter by the Pittsburgh offense. I'm thinking that they're a little too scripted, a little too run-heavy early in the game, and everybody knows it's coming. And therefore, we start slow until Jaylen gets in there and provides a spark. Hey, love the show.
Appreciate that, Tim. On all levels, actually, I'd love to see you become part of the coaching staff, even if it's just for a day. Just barge into the room. Hey, guys, I'm Tim from Meadville. Hear me roar. I'm here to straighten you guys out on all of your problems that you have on the first drive and the first quarter, because I don't think it's any more complicated than that. That's why I was pushing the way I was in the opening segment for just something that's different. Even if there's a splash of radical in there. Now, you don't want to go too far, and I probably should have said this in that segment, where every single play is like, whoa, because that's when you can start making mistakes. You make a big mistake early in an arch rivalry type of game, it's going to burn you, especially if you expect in advance, as we all should, that it'll be low scoring and tight. But man, do something different. They're going to sit over there and wait for you to do exactly what they know you're going to do. And that's not okay. That's not okay. When you see Russell Wilson take that first snap and pitch back to Najee Harris, just so that they can stick a thumb up their nose at you, that's not okay. You got to have to try something different. One of the things that bugged me about the matchup in Philadelphia in advance, even before it came to light, was that the Steelers aren't where the Eagles are in this regard, for the simple reason that they can't be. They just started taking this type of physical approach, offensive line first approach, just within the past year or two, meaning since Omar Khan took over as GM, of course, bringing Andy Weidl with him from Philly. And that's not going to be just like that. It's not. You lose Troy Fautanu early on. Fautanu looked like he was going to become a fixture there at right tackle, the way he performed. I understand it wasn't for very long, him going out halfway through the Denver game, but he that would have been something. That would have added, if nothing else, a whole lot of depth. You would have had Broderick Jones just this guy that's just waiting around to see who he can fill in for, or he would have taken Dan Moore's place on the left side or something, but you don't have that. You don't have what Philadelphia has because the Eagles have been doing it longer. So if the Eagles made up their minds, we're going to show you who we are. We're going to move the ball however it is that we please because we have this line. We have Saquon Barkley as an MVP candidate. We have Jalen Hurts with his own 500 rushing yards. Steelers don't have that. They don't have that. They want to have it, but they don't. So what matters on a weekend like this is just one thing, and that's winning the game. It's just about winning this one game. That's why you roll out all the plays, because the advantage that you get for winning your division, never mind the flag waving and the we run the North and all the other stuff that would follow, and I'm sure there will be some kind of amazing locker room video in which they're going to catch Mike Tomlin dancing and everything else with the players. You have to win the game because it puts you into the best possible playoff positioning. That's why it matters. You're going to get a home playoff game. If you want to keep being that team that gets sent out to slaughter in the playoffs, that gets sent to Kansas City to lose 41-9 or gets sent to Buffalo, whatever the heck that score was, then you just crawl your way in. If you want to succeed in the playoffs, however it is that you would define success, you got to win your division. Got to win the division. Got to put it all out there. Got to get a little bit creative. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out the new Double Shot. We'll do another one of these tomorrow.